They were set and determined to get my car keys and take my car.
A shocking crime caught on camera. Thieves breaking into homes to steal the cars in the driveway.
Tonight, residents sound the alarm about a terrifying trend. Good evening. Toronto police say there has been a dramatic rise in car thefts in the last few years.
And the level of violence being used, they say, presenting a new and evolving threat to public safety. CTV's Allison Hurst joins us from the Yonge and Lawrence area tonight with the story. Allison.
Yeah, this was rather terrifying. The woman we were speaking with told us that she was awoken by some sort of a crash. She and her husband went downstairs and they could hear that there was some sort of a door or a window open. And when they got to their front door, there was a brick that had gone through their front window lying on the floor.
Watch as two suspects walk up the front steps, one carrying what appears to be a brick and throws it through the window.
We were just sort of finally asleep, and I heard a crash.
They reach through the hole and let themselves in. Moments later, the suspects run out. One gets into a car in the driveway, the other goes to one on the street, and they leave. Megan, who asked we not use her last name for safety, says she and her husband went downstairs and saw the broken glass and the brick.
I immediately called 911. We ran back upstairs and we stood near our kids' doors.
She says it happened just after midnight in the second week of September in the area of Yonge and Lawrence.
Just the fearlessness of it, it was really scary.
Toronto police say there have been more than 9,400 vehicles reported stolen in the city, and that's a 30% increase from last year. And a spokesperson adds, the level of violence being used in the commission of auto theft offenses represents a new and evolving threat to public safety.
They're no longer just trying to take them from the driveways. They are breaking in windows, front door panels, back doors, just to get a key and then leave.
Dee Dee Cameron founded a neighborhood watch group in 2017 for the Yonge and Lawrence area and says she often hears similar stories from neighbors. In the last 2 weeks, she says about 9 vehicles have been reported stolen in her vicinity.
The trend has changed because we are using wheel locks, steering wheel locks, Faraday bags. So if we make that harder, they'll find a new way.
Another neighbor shared this video from the night before Megan's car was stolen, showing someone holding a flashlight, walking up the front porch and peering into the front door before leaving.
In a way, I am grateful my keys weren't in a purse in the kitchen or in my bedroom, because the way they were so fearless to get the keys, they could have come in deeper in the house. I don't know.
Megan says they've since increased their security.
We've upped the sensitivity of certain alarms and whatnot in our house. We've updated some cameras. We've installed some new locks.
And hopes it doesn't happen again.
Megan says this is actually the second time they've had a vehicle stolen. A few years ago, their Jeep was stolen from their driveway, but she says this time feels that much more violating because they were in her home. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. And still to come, pro-Palestinian protesters take to the streets of downtown Toronto. The demands for action in the Middle East, from school campuses to Queen's Park. There was hope today aid would start flowing into the Gaza Strip, where a humanitarian crisis is unfolding.
That did not happen, but after nearly 2 weeks of fighting and grief on both sides, there is a positive development tonight. CTV's Heather Wright has the details.
2 American hostages held by Hamas for 13 days were released today. Judith and Natalie Ronen from Chicago were in Israel to celebrate the birthday of Judith's mother. They were kidnapped from kibbutz Nahal Oz and let go today in a deal brokered by the Qatari government. The mother and daughter were released on humanitarian grounds, as Judith's health is poor.
Allahu Akbar!
An estimated 200 hostages still remain in Gaza, including Canadian Vivian Silver, who was taken from kibbutz Be'eri on October 7th. 100 people were murdered at this kibbutz, and the destruction is everywhere.
Outside this home, you can see some of the pieces of the life of the family that used to live here. And inside, it's just completely blackened. That would have been their living room. You can see the TV there on the wall. Their kitchen over here, and like so many fridges around the world, family photos, many of which are now blackened and burnt.
Forensic identification teams are still on scene at this kibbutz, identifying remains and collecting evidence. while the Israeli military performs exercises nearby as it prepares for the next phase of this war. In Gaza today, Friday prayer under siege. Thousands paused amid fighting that never seems to stop. The situation is difficult, this man says. We are human beings, not animals. Where are the Arabs to help us and relieve us of suffering? Help is waiting, as it has been for days. A long convoy of trucks stuck at the Rafah border crossing in Egypt, with last-minute disagreements derailing plans to let aid flow. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres visited Rafah, urging all sides to find a way to let aid in.
Behind these walls, we have 2 million people that is suffering enormously.
The suffering in Gaza continued today, with more Israeli airstrikes hitting areas in the south where civilians had been told to flee. We don't want to receive aid, this young woman says. We want the destruction and the killing of children in their sleep to stop. We are tired.
And CTV's Heather Wright joins us now live from Tel Aviv. Heather, a hopeful sign today that 2 American hostages have been released. Do we know anything more about the status of the other hostages, including 2 Canadians?
No, Zarata, we don't know much about the status of those hostages. Antony Blinken, the U.S. Secretary of State, was asked that during a news conference this afternoon, and he said that there really is no new intelligence on the other hostages. More than 200 believed to be held hostage in Gaza right now, including, as you mentioned, 2 Canadians. But certainly those are going to be some of the questions when they are ready, that these 2 women, this mother and daughter from the United States, will be asked as part of their debrief what they know about, the situation they were held in, what they can tell them about who was around them. So that will be really vital intelligence that will go to authorities once they are properly debriefed. But this does give a glimmer of hope to the many families who have been holding out hope for the last 2 weeks that their loved ones are still alive.
Meanwhile, another night in Gaza with no aid flowing in. What is the latest on what you're hearing on the ground when it comes to those trucks? When will they be allowed over the border?
We still don't know exactly when that might happen. As you saw in the piece, the UN Secretary General was at the border today. He was reiterating those pleas to have all sides get together, figure out a way to get that aid across the border. There are a number of sticking points, we're told, about what could be allowed in, whether fuel should be part of the aid package that is allowed into Gaza, and how those trucks are going to be looked at to make sure that contraband and other things that might go to Hamas, things like weapons, ammunition, that they are not part of those trucks. So the negotiations are ongoing. The trucks are ready to flow. It remains to be seen, though, when that might start to happen.
CTV's Heather Wright in Tel Aviv. Heather, thank you.
Thanks.
And when that crossing into Gaza does open, officials say they will be ready to start bringing trapped Canadians home.
It only makes sense that that aid goes in and the gate opens and we have the possibility to also bring people out. So this is what we're planning for. This is what we're looking for signs that environment, that opportunity to bring aid in is going to move forward. It's our sincere hope that it does. And when it does, we are ready to be able to receive Canadians and their family members.
Since the war began, Global Affairs has responded to inquiries from 357 Canadians in the Gaza Strip seeking assistance and information. Meanwhile, Canada's Armed Forces is preparing for the possibility it will need to help bring Canadians out of Lebanon. About 14,500 Canadians are registered as being there. They are being urged to get on commercial flights out of Beirut while they still can. Canadian military officials are in Lebanon, Israel, Cyprus, and Greece to prepare for a civilian evacuation if need be.
The UK's Prime Minister is in Cairo, where a peace summit has been called for tomorrow. Egypt will host the international conference to discuss the escalating war. Leaders from a number of countries in the Middle East and Europe are scheduled to attend, but the expected absence of a top U.S. official has dampened expectations. In Tel Aviv, a memorial has been set up in honor of those killed in the October 7th attack by Hamas, which Canada has declared a terrorist group. The floral tribute was created by volunteers and is located in a central square. The We Stand with Israel memorial includes some of the flowers formed into messages such as Love Israel. 6 Canadians were among more than 1,000 people who died in the attack. 2 other Canadians remain missing.
And we're at Queen's Park tonight, where protesters are once again holding a rally demanding action in the Middle East. It's just the latest in a day of demonstrations in Toronto. CTV's Janice Goulding joins us live with those details. Janice.
And Michelle, it has been a day of heightened emotions as protesters gathered at sites across the city before finally gathering here at Queen's Park for a larger demonstration.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
The protest started on Bloor West at around 10:30 a.m., directly between the Deputy Prime Minister's office on the one side and the Miles Nadal Jewish Community Center on the other.
As a Palestinian watching it, it's heart-wrenching. I'm studying at school, I'm doing my master's, and I have to go cry in the washrooms with the scenes that I'm watching.
Last week, I had a whole family massacred in Gaza. 45 members of my father's side of the family were completely massacred in one day.
The rally eventually moved into the intersection at Bloor and Spadina, completely blocking traffic in both directions as protesters demanded relief for Palestinians.
They're suffering, they're dying. How can the international community stand by? How can the Canadian government stand by and condone this?
It fills me with shame that our country is not willing to stand up for those who clearly are being oppressed.
This is not provocative. That is provocative. Standing in front of an Israeli school, a Jewish school.
On the outer edges of the rally, a couple counter-protesters made their presence known.
I'm just showing Jewish pride.
I thought it was important to show support for Israel. It's important to counter the crowd here.
By mid-afternoon, the protests had moved to Toronto's downtown universities, with simultaneous rallies taking place at TMU and at U of T, where hundreds chanted and held pro-Palestinian signs aloft on the steps of the student commons on St. George.
Very angry because we've been doing this for so many years.
Right now, we're fighting for the people of Gaza, for the children, for the mothers, the fathers, the brothers, everyone.
Makes me feel like dehumanized. Those people who are dying in Gaza, they're our brothers and sisters in humanity.
By 4 p.m., many protesters had begun migrating to Ontario's legislature, noisily making their presence known as they marched through the core of the city.
Justin Trudeau, you can't hide!
Angry voices converging at Queen's Park as they called on all levels of government to advocate for a ceasefire in the Middle East. Now, police tell us there are about 1,000 people gathered here at Queen's Park at this hour, and we are also told there are several additional protests scheduled through the weekend. Reporting live, I'm Janice Goulding. Now back to Zoraida.
Thank you, Janice. And there were pro-Palestinian rallies today in several other countries. Demonstrations were held in Iraq, Jordan, Egypt, Turkey, and South Africa, among others. Protesters called for an end to Israel's blockade and airstrikes. Many were angered by a deadly blast on Tuesday night at a hospital in Gaza City. Hamas blames Israel. The Israelis say it was caused by a misfired rocket from another Palestinian militant group.
Still to come tonight, the world's all-time leading soccer scorer set to retire. Christine Sinclair's message to fans, a look at her legacy in sport and with Team Canada, and why she's not hanging her cleats entirely. That's just ahead.
But first, here's a live look outside right now on what's been a gray and unsettled day. We're not quite in the clear yet when it comes to wet weather either. Lindsay Morrison joins us now with a look at our current conditions. It's looking like raincoats and umbrellas tonight, Linz.
I think so, Zoraida. The next line of wet weather is moving in as we speak. Oakville, Mississauga, Brampton, Bolton, you're getting into some rain along with areas to the west, and eventually this is going to slide its way across the city of Toronto and areas east. This is the cold front associated associated with the low pressure system that's been impacting us all day long. Winds right now are still light. That's going to change. Temperatures right now are still mild. That too is going to change. We're at 14 degrees right now. This is a look at your evening forecast. Over the weekend, we're going to gradually cool down. It's also going to be quite blustery. We'll take you through a full look at the forecast coming up. For now, though, Zoraida, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. A terrible crash early this morning in Brampton has claimed a life.
2 tractor trailers and a car collided. A man in the car did not survive, and it reignited concerns about speed and safety in the area. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us from the scene near Goreway Drive and Mayfield Road. Beth.
Michelle, this crash happened on Mayfield Road, and some people living nearby say they've been making warnings about traffic and safety in the area for years. All that's left of the white car are broken parts and crumpled metal. The man who was driving it, dead, just 27 years old.
Somebody lost a life. It's most unfortunate situation, somebody losing a life.
Ontario Provincial Police say the crash happened along Mayfield Road between Goreway Drive and McVean Drive shortly before 5 in the morning. The sequence of events haven't been made clear yet by officers, but in addition to the car, 2 transport trucks were involved, with a head-on collision taking place at some point.
It's an unfortunate situation. It's not yesterday or last week. I've been last 4 or 5 years raising flag that traffic congestion and the issues in Brampton, especially Mayfield Road, is completely unsafe.
Mayfield is a 2-lane road and appears to have a fair amount of traffic. There are a few trucking-related businesses located within just a few hundred meters from where the crash occurred. 80 kilometers an hour is the speed limit on the stretch of road where the trucks and car collided. Drive beyond the immediate intersections, McVean to the east or Goreway to the west, the speed limit is reduced to 60 kilometers an hour. CTV News spoke with one business owner who wants speed limits reduced and more lights on Mayfield to increase safety, while some say more could have been done before this deadly crash.
Told last week, wait 1 day, somebody will die, then you act. Why we don't do the proactive actions? Why don't we look at the things proactively?
CTV News reached out to the town of Caledon about possible safety issues or changes here. It says Mayfield, which straddles Caledon and Brampton, is a Peel Regional Road. The town didn't answer our specific questions and offered its heartfelt condolences to the families. Police are asking anyone with information or video to come forward. One of the truck drivers also went to hospital with minor injuries. We also reached out to the city of Brampton. We didn't immediately hear back. The region of Peel says it closely monitors speed limits and puts forward recommendations to council based on data and analysis. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Now back to Michelle and Zoraida.
Thank you, Beth. A 17-year-old boy hit by a car while fleeing police in Vaughan has died of his injuries. The Special Investigations Unit says a York Regional Police officer was patrolling the Canada's Wonderland parking lot last Friday night. He reported seeing a teen, quote, behaving suspiciously and exited his car. The boy then allegedly ran away while the officer pursued on foot. The chase ended when the teen reached Jane Street and was struck by a vehicle. The police watchdog says the teen died in hospital yesterday. The investigation is ongoing.
Homicide investigators are on the scene in Newmarket after human remains were found in a wooded area. York Regional Police say remains of an adult woman were located yesterday behind a medical building parking lot near Davis Drive and Bayview Parkway. Her age and identity still aren't known at this point. Police also don't know how long the remains have been there, but they do say this is not a historic body. They're now canvassing for witnesses, video recordings, and information as the search for answers continues. In Mississauga, Bonnie Crombie has overruled her own council, using her strong mayor powers to push a recent motion through.
It had to do with housing regulations in the city, with the feds threatening to pull funding unless it passed. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris reports.
Do we have more mechanisms?
Bonnie Crombie is using her strong mayor powers to override a vote by council to allow homes with up to 4 units in all corners of Mississauga.
It's a tied vote again, so that fails.
Councillors were deadlocked on approving fourplexes last week. They voted instead to ask city staff to study the idea.
I need to know, can the water and sewer support it? The road network, the transit network, the garbage collection.
But others on council, as well as the mayor, feel there's no time to waste in adding gentle density and filling in the so-called missing middle.
It's a moral imperative. Everyone knows we're in a housing crisis. You can open up any newspaper or watch your show and know that we have a huge demand for housing and a lot of unhoused people.
Buy a home. Crombie wouldn't have needed to reach for the strong mayor powers had she been present for the vote. But she's on a leave of absence, running to lead the Ontario Liberal Party.
I'm disappointed that this is the decision that's been made, but I do respect the fact that Mayor Crombie does have the power.
Bonnie Crombie explained she used her strong mayor powers to meet the scale and urgency of the housing crisis. Her move also keeps Mississauga eligible for $120 million in federal funding. That cash was in doubt after the council vote.
Mayor Crombie has honestly come to the rescue.
The federal housing minister expects cities to be bold trying to get more homes built. So now, with the plan for fourplexes,
The door's not closed, but we were not yet in a position to say yes.
Councillor Joe Hornick is hopeful.
This is dollars that we need to build roads, libraries, and parks, and to make this a desirable city to live in.
Minister Sean Fraser needs to dig through the details first, but
To the extent that Mississauga meets the ambition that other successful applicants have demonstrated, Mississauga should expect to be included as a successful recipient in the Housing Accelerator Fund.
Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
Back at Queen's Park, legislators will vote on Monday on whether to censor new Democrat MPP Sarah Jama for comments she shared on the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The Progressive Conservatives launched the effort after Jama posted about, quote, occupation and apartheid without initially condemning attacks on Israeli civilians. Premier Doug Ford and others accused Jama of anti-Semitism and endorsing attacks on Jewish people. She has threatened legal action, calling those words defamatory. Today, her Hamilton Centre constituency office shared a statement saying, "We've recently received a number of concerning calls and emails that have made us question the safety of remaining open for walk-ins and have decided to work remotely and only accept in-person meetings by appointment to ensure the safety of staff."
Also in the legislature, 2 government MPPs put forward a bill to ban registered sex offenders from legally changing their names. If it passes, the PCs say Ontario would be closing a loophole that helps offenders escape accountability. You can find more details on the proposal on our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
Olivia Chow is marking a mayoral milestone tonight.
It has now been exactly 100 days since she took office. CTV's Natalie Johnston spoke with Chow about taking on the city's top job and the challenges she's faced.
It was 100 days ago that Olivia Chow took on the city's top job, forced to hit the ground running midterm and take over Toronto.
The vibe is pretty good. It's great. People seem to be very busy, and we are seeing results together.
Chow's inauguration marked a Toronto turning point, the first progressive administration in more than a decade, taking over a council that had been largely loyal to John Tory.
I took a lot of time to build relationships with council members because it's important that we listen to each other to find out how best we can work together.
Under the previous mayor, you either did what he told you or you were outside the tent. Mayor Chow has created a lot more openness and inviting people who ran against her or endorsed other councillors or just all of us here on council to contribute our best thinking.
She cites her first big wins as restoring TTC service levels and hiring more transit staff to be eyes and ears on the ground, providing 2,700 new rent supplements for those in need of shelter, and investing $10 million in a program that buys affordable housing, using proceeds from an increase to the vacant home tax.
So essential and crucial.
Even managing to get the majority of her colleagues to agree that Toronto needs new taxes to pay the bills.
She's going to have a major impact on what is something the city has needed for really 20 years since amalgamation.
And in a move that surprised many, finding common ground with Doug Ford, getting the ball rolling on a new fiscal framework for the cash-strapped city, making progress with the province.
To be able to work together with Premier Ford and have Premier Ford said, yes, we know you have a structural problem financially. That's great.
But as her honeymoon period tapers off, Chow knows there is much more to be done. Next year's budget looms large, and bridging the gap may be a battle.
Sometimes it gets heated, sometimes because people have different approaches, but our goals are very similar, which is very encouraging.
100 days in, and 100 more things still to do. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
Critics say it puts kids at risk. A bill on the use of pronouns by students in Saskatchewan received final approval today.
This bill, at its very core, is about providing parents the right, not the opportunity, to support their child through the formative years of their life and some very important decisions that our children are facing.
The government also invoked the notwithstanding clause to allow it to override sections of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The law prevents children under the age of 16 from changing their names or pronouns at school without receiving parental consent. The opposition says teachers will now have to choose between putting kids back in the closet or putting them in harm's way.
Canada pulled most of our envoys out of India following a threat to revoke their diplomatic immunity. And today, New Delhi insisted that threat is in line with international law. The Prime Minister disagrees.
This is them choosing to contravene a very fundamental principle of international law and diplomacy. It is something that all countries in the world should be very worried about.
Justin Trudeau says the move has very real impacts on millions of people who travel back and forth from India. Relations with New Delhi have soured since he said there was a potential link between the Indian government and the killing of a Sikh leader in BC.
Poppies will be available to Canadians starting next Friday, and today there was a special ceremony at Rideau Hall.
It is a signal that we will listen to the stories of veterans, reflect on their service, and carry their stories with us wherever we go.
Governor General Mary Simon was presented with the first poppy of the campaign. Every year, the Royal Canadian Legion offers the powerful symbol of remembrance with the help of thousands of volunteers. The funds raised are in support of veterans and their families.
Well, we may never see anyone like her again.
Canadian soccer superstar Christine Sinclair is retiring from international play. CTV's Vanessa Lee reports.
Christine Sinclair quietly announced on Instagram she is hanging up her cleats, leaving the game she helped put on the map.
Sinclair wide open. Is this it? It is!
As the world's all-time leading scorer by any player, man or woman, with 190 goals.
For the longest time, Christine Sinclair has been the face of Canada soccer.
Her decorated career includes 6 World Cup appearances and 4 Olympic Games, leading Canada to gold in Tokyo. Just last month, she helped the team qualify for the Paris Olympics. Her legacy, though, runs so much deeper than her triumphs on the pitch, fighting, in her own words, for equality for past, present, and future generations.
Not just on equal pay, but equal treatment, respect, and also that Soccer Canada addressed the level of abuse, sexual abuse and harassment that many women in her generation had to endure.
She has paved the way for young players, inspiring a nation of girls and women, including the Béchard sisters.
She shows young players and me as well that anything's possible, and you can get somewhere from nothing, and you just have to keep working, keep grinding. I feel like it's really brought a lot of doors open more for girls too in Canada.
Sinclair is expected to play 4 more games in Canadian cities from now until the end of the year, allowing her to say goodbye on home soil. Vanessa Lee, CTV News, Montreal.
Coming up, a chance at meaningful employment. Hundreds of refugees get FaceTime with potential employers eager to hire. Still ahead, the special hiring event offering hope for the future.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, it's a chore not everyone likes to do, cleaning your windows. If you have to get the job done, there are many different products to choose from, but which one works best? Consumer Reports just put several to the test. I'll have the results. That's just ahead.
Well, it's time to get out and enjoy before the colors start to fade and the leaves begin to fall. It's not a bad looking weekend either. Of course, it is going to be quite windy. There's still a chance of showers this weekend, and we're going to cool down, especially into Sunday night, overnight into Monday. In fact, the city of Toronto has its first best chance of frost. We're going to talk about that and the rest of your weekend forecast coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
It's a job not everyone likes to do, but luckily it's a chore you only have to do once or twice a year, and that is cleaning your windows.
If you missed out on getting them done during your spring cleaning, you may want to tackle them before the cold weather arrives. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Zoraida and Michelle, many people have their own strategy when it comes to cleaning windows, and there are many different cleaning products to choose from, but some work better than others. Consumer Reports just put the most popular types to the test. Spots, smudges, and grime, the glass surfaces in our homes reveal a lot of our not-so-secret messes, and when it comes to cleaning them, there are a lot of glass cleaners to choose from. There's ammonia-based, ammonia-free, and the homemade vinegar solution. Which works best for clear, streak-free glass? Consumer Reports put several to the test.
I applied toothpaste, oily fingerprints, a mixture of margarine and flour, and bright red lipstick to bathroom mirrors and living room windows. Then I sprayed each one with the different glass cleaners, and I counted the number of wipes needed to get rid of the messes.
The test helped clear up one big misconception. Vinegar is not your best choice for glass.
It worked in our test, and it removed our messes, but it did leave noticeable amounts of streaks behind, so it just requires a lot more wiping.
And while ammonia-based cleaners like Windex are known for their cleaning power, the smell isn't so great. Plus, ammonia can leave streaks and film on some types of windows. But not to worry, some ammonia-free options clean just as well. The winner, this spray-away foaming glass cleaner. It cut through all the messes, leaving surfaces dry after a single wipe. Plus, it can also be used on chrome, tile, and porcelain, so you get more bang for your buck. If you're just looking for a dedicated glass cleaner, testers say this invisible glass is also a great option. When it's time to clean those hard-to-reach windows or exterior windows, you could get out your ladder, but researchers found your safety alone is worth the cost of a telescoping cleaning pole kit. They're available at most home improvement stores, starting at around $100. And whatever product or method you use to clean your windows, researchers say it's best to wash them on a cloudy day. Direct sunlight can cause streaks because the liquid evaporates quickly and leaves a messy residue behind. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, you gotta love a Friday, even if it is raining, not much in the way of sun, rather gloomy and kind of a bit of a soaker too.
Yeah, typical like sort of fall type weather, which I suppose we should be happy for, because before we know it, it'll be snow.
That's true. Tonight is a good night to maybe curl up inside, enjoy some comfort food. Tomorrow, as we make our way through the day, it is going to be drier, but it is still going to be mostly cloudy. We will see the sun return this weekend, though, so there's some good news. But the trade-off is we're going to cool down, and by Monday morning, we could experience our first frost of the season. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. Just want to bring you up to speed on a couple of international stories we're going to be following this weekend. This is Hurricane Norma, a major hurricane set to make landfall on Mexico's Baja California Peninsula. Very heavy rain expected there over the next couple of days. We're also monitoring Tammy, which did in fact strengthen to a hurricane as well, impacting the Leeward Islands, the Lesser Antilles tonight and tomorrow, and then it's eventually going to veer back out to sea, so that's some good news there. Here at home, we have showers just starting to approach the downtown core from the west end. The rain is heavier and steadier the further north you go into Barrie and through portions of Muskoka. Pockets of dry weather right now and this evening. That will be ongoing. These are on and off showers as what's left of this low continues to make its way eastward. Behind it, some changes. Yes, it's going to be a little bit dry drier, but it's also going to be windier and eventually it's going to be cooler. It's into Sunday afternoon that we're going to see the sun return. There's tomorrow morning, so you can see how overcast it remains aside from a few pockets of sunshine. But again, generally drier. Heads up there, the closer you get to the border with Quebec, maybe a few wet snowflakes. Not a concern for us yet in the city of Toronto. As we make our way through the day on Sunday, again, that's when the clearing is expected. But with those clear skies and cooler temperatures, we will see that risk of frost. Now, it's also going to be quite windy this weekend. We're talking gusts of around 50 kilometers per hour, and that wind is coming from a northwesterly direction, so it's going to feel a little raw at times this weekend, especially as we make our way through Sunday and again Sunday night into Monday. Here's a look at tonight's lows. We're still mild. 9 is what we're forecasting overnight here in Toronto. 13 degrees for tomorrow, so that's near seasonal. Sunday, it's not so much the daytime high that's a concern, although some communities will be in the single digits. It's the overnight low. Check this out. 0 is what we're forecasting in Toronto, so we'll feel that Monday morning. It is a beautiful day Monday, though. Lots of sunshine. We're warming up, but also back into some wet weather through the middle part of next week. That's your look at the weather for now. Zoraida, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Still to come, rumor has it Adele has enjoyed her Las Vegas residency so much the Chasing Pavement singer is adding an extra leg to her final performances in Sin City. Aside from having to find a place to live, refugees also have to secure meaningful employment to pay the bills.
And as some employers struggle amid a labor shortage, the city and its partners aim to bridge the gap today, hosting a special hiring event for refugees. Dozens of employers line the rotunda as more than 400 refugees and other displaced individuals prepare for interviews.
They are asked good questions, and I hope I'm doing well.
This is the 3rd annual Toronto Refugee Hiring Event, offering a shot at employment from a range of sectors.
This is not a job fair. This is a hiring event and an important initiative about the type of city we want to be. We come together to give expression to our welcome for refugees, and we give expression to the prosperity of the city.
Registered candidates are interviewed on site and may be offered a job on the spot or an opportunity to continue on in the hiring process. Talent acquisition specialist Tina Piang-Cheng Tong is a refugee herself and knows the importance of getting that first job.
Giving the opportunity to someone who has no idea why they're here in Canada and to be able to establish and have their foot on the ground to kickstart the journey in Canada, in Toronto in particular.
Yemi Fawi came to Canada from Nigeria. She says she's a chemical engineer who hasn't worked since July.
It's hard because you have to depend on friends and family. So getting an opportunity to work is great. It's life-changing.
Many like her hoping this opportunity will set them on a new path to success.
May not get the job, but I'm happy with the try also, and I will keep trying.
I missed something, and I want to improve my English, so I can't speak a lot of things with English.
Valuable face-to-face time for a real chance at meaningful employment. And the City of Toronto says last year's hiring event led to more than 100 on-the-spot and conditional job offers, while others were offered either a second interview or the chance to be included in the future hiring process.
Reports out of Hollywood say a push by A-list stars to resolve the ongoing Screen Actors strike didn't go over well. Sources tell Variety a group of big names, including George Clooney and Tyler Perry, presented their proposal to SAG-AFTRA leadership on Tuesday. The ideas put forward reportedly focused on issues like union dues and benefits. SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher responded to the proposals in a video to members last night.
And although that's extremely generous, and we accept that graciously, that does not impact the contract that we're striking over whatsoever.
Drescher says the actors' offer to contribute more towards union benefits was appreciated, but would actually violate U.S. labor laws. She says any increased benefits have to come from studios and streaming services as the SAG-AFTRA strike continues.
And as major film production remains paused for the most part, some alternative movies are making their way to the big screen. A live recording of hit Broadway musical Waitress will hit movie theaters for a limited run in December, starring composer and lyricist Sarah Bareilles. While typical blockbusters are still releasing, a dip in production has led to a demand for other content, also including concert films from Taylor Swift and Beyoncé.
Adele is preparing to bid farewell to her Las Vegas residency. The singer shared the news with a compilation of videos from her shows at Caesars Palace. They've been running on and off since November of 2022. Adele has added some new shows next year with her final performance set for June 15th. She added, quote, "This residency, these shows have changed my life. I desperately needed to fall back in love with performing live again, and I have."
Stars Tonight is brought to you by Lastman's Bad Boy. Who's better? Nobody.
Now, Batya is well known as the Toronto Raptors superfan, and now the entrepreneur can add author to his list of accomplishments. Just ahead, a look at his upcoming memoir, complete with behind-the-scenes chapters.
Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Updating our top stories, chants echoed through the downtown core, the scene of pro-Palestinian rallies. Demonstrators called on the Canadian government to intervene in the Middle East. Meantime, 2 American hostages held by Hamas for 13 days have been released in a deal brokered by the Qatari government.
I immediately called 911. We ran back upstairs and we stood near our kids' doors.
Residents in a Midtown neighborhood are sounding the alarm about an uptick in brazen vehicle thefts. Criminals breaking into homes to get their hands on the key fob necessary to steal a car. Toronto police say the level of violence in vehicle thefts represents a new threat to public safety.
Somebody lost a life. It's most unfortunate situation, somebody losing a life.
One person was killed in a crash in Brampton. It happened around 5 a.m. near Goreway Drive and Mayfield Road. 2 tractor trailers and a car were involved. The 27-year-old man in driving the car did not survive. Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar traded up 3 points to 72.94 U.S. American benchmark oil slid 29 cents to 88.08 a barrel. And the TSX Composite Index fell 233 points to end the day at 19,115.
Canada's premiers are urging Ottawa to give small businesses more time to pay back pandemic-era loans. The federal government offered interest-free loans of up to $60,000 under CEBA, the Canadian Emergency Business Account. The repayment deadline to qualify for partial forgiveness is January 18th of 2024. But the premiers today sent a joint letter to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau requesting that date be pushed back a year. The letter said that additional time is crucial as small businesses cope with higher inflation and interest rates.
An important reminder, if you're planning to take the subway this weekend, trains will not be running on Line 1 between Sinclair and Finch stations. The TTC says crews will be carrying out track and signal upgrades. Shuttle buses will run on Saturday and Sunday, with regular service resuming on Monday morning.
The Maple Leafs kicked off a 5-game road trip in South Florida last night.
Nylander. Back to Tavares, a hard shot. Bobrovsky, save, rebound, score!
That's the Leafs scoring their one and only goal of the game in the second period. The Panthers took the win 3-1. The Leafs have tonight off before taking on Tampa Bay Lightning tomorrow.
Barnes, a touch pass, Boucher with a slam.
The undefeated Toronto Raptors play their final preseason game tonight, and the Raps will have a full complement of players when they host Washington. Toronto's first regular season game is Wednesday against Minnesota.
Meanwhile, the Raptors have reportedly signed forward Justice Winslow. Terms of the deal were not disclosed. He averaged 6.8 points in 29 games with Portland last season. Winslow underwent ankle surgery in late March, but is expected to be ready in time.
Raptors superfan Nav Bhatia is adding author to his resume. The memoir is expected to include behind-the-scenes stories. Bhatia shared the news on social media, saying the book is a celebration of immigrant hustle, communities coming together, and the strength that comes from embracing our differences. The Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame recognized Bhatia's superfandom in 2021. The book, titled The Heart of a Superfan, hits shelves on February 27th.
Two Toronto athletes have been named Canada's flag bearers for the Pan American Games. The beach volleyball team of Melissa Humana Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson will usher our team into the stadium tonight in Santiago, Chile. Both competed in Tokyo's Summer Olympics 2 years ago and reached the quarterfinals with different teammates.
Tonight, the release of 2 American hostages by Hamas.
Our prayers have been heard for Judith and Natalie.
More details about why the mother and daughter were freed and their journey out of Gaza. Later on CTV National News.
Hey Toronto, I'm Nicole Cervinas.
And I'm Teddy Wilson, and welcome to Things to Know TO.
Each week, we shine a spotlight on a wide variety of local businesses, services, events, and initiatives from across the GTA.
And if you or your company would like to be featured, you can contact our team by email at thingstoknowto@bellmedia.ca.
And don't forget, join us on Saturday mornings on CP24, CTV, and CTV2.
And hey, why not follow us on social at Things to Know TO.
Well, the sun has set, a weekend is in front of us, and yes, there's rain sprinkled over the days, but not a full washout weekend.
Maybe a little sun?
A little sun, especially as we
Take it.
make our way into Sunday. It's going to be cooler. That's the trade-off. Even this evening, we've been watching the satellite and radar. It looks like wet weather's coming, but it's also tapering off somewhat. So you may escape. If you have Friday night plans, bring the umbrella with you, but you might fare okay. It's not going to be a complete soaker of an evening by any means. Current temperature is still 13 degrees here in the city of Toronto. Tomorrow's high, also 13. So we remain mild. You are, however, going to notice a stronger wind tomorrow and perhaps even stronger winds into the day on Sunday. But that clearing does happen as the day goes on. Monday is a beautiful sunny day. We're back into some cloud cover for Tuesday. Temperature back into the mid-teens by Wednesday. But yes, another round of wet weather is set to roll in. Michelle and Zoraida.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, that's it for all of us, but be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a great night.
We'll see you at 11:30.